So what you're about to hear is absolutely glorious. I don't know if I ever thought I'd see the day where mainstream media had to write these articles. But they're admitting it. They're admitting that Medicare for All is perhaps a political winner, not a liability. So NBC News says the following. Democratic voters embrace Medicare for All in Iowa, New Hampshire, and Nevada. Wow. NBC News entrance or exit polls find that Medicare for All is supported by large majorities of Democratic voters in Iowa, 57% support to 38% opposition. New Hampshire, 58% support to 37% opposition. And Nevada, 62% support to 35% opposition. That helps explain the strength of Bernie Sanders in all three states and indicates that rival candidates who staked their primary campaigns on opposing Medicare for All, most notably Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg, may have miscalculated. Amy Klobuchar, too. Many Democratic voters in 2020 are less interested in candidates who talk about what is politically possible and more interested in candidates who seek to change what's possible. I love that quote. Oh, my God. Now, here's how the question was worded, just so you know, because I feel like this is also an important point. How do you feel about replacing all private health insurance with a single government plan for everybody? Now, listen, guys, I can't stress this enough. That question was worded that way in an attempt to make people say, I don't support that. The way you word poll questions is everything, because you could get any answer you want depending on how you word it. And that question was worded specifically to try to get people to say, no, I don't support Medicare for All. They were fishing for an answer under 50%. Because they worded that as scary as you possibly could. You could have said, do you support a single-payer Medicare for All system where everybody gets health care and is free at the point of service? Could have said that. That's one way to word it. And by the way, if they did that, it would have been like 90%. But no, they said, how do you feel about replacing all private health insurance, they're trying to scare you there, with a single government plan for everybody? They're trying to stress like, it's taking away your choice. It's taking away your choice. Even when they word it in an anti-Medicare for All way. Medicare for All crushed. It crushed. This gets to an important point about the Bernie Sanders era, and it's a point I made before, but I didn't make it nearly enough. I have to stress this point. Bernie Sanders is a candidate that's so important and so special because what he does is he baits the Democratic establishment into taking their mask off and showing the world what they really are. See, when Bernie goes out there and he says, I think everybody should have health care and it should be free at the point of service, he's not saying anything that wasn't said previously by every Democratic president. You know, you go back, I think even Clinton had speeches about that. Now, you know, they ended up backing off of it because of Republican opposition and a million different things. But Bill Clinton originally said the same thing casually. FDR said the same thing. That's if you go way back. JFK said the same thing. Truman said the same thing. Like, there is a rich history in the United States of America, in politics, of the left position being, of course we should have a national health care system. Every other developed country has it. File that under duh. Of course we want that. So when you look at the history of politics in America, that's the position of the left. But what does Bernie do? We've gotten to such a craven political era where corporate money floods the system and the Democratic Party is totally sold out to Wall Street and for-profit health insurance companies and big pharma and the military-industrial complex. They're just as bad as the Republicans in many respects on that front. So as a result of that, now they've really convinced themselves, because of the rot, they've convinced themselves, oh no, it's actually not popular to say everybody should have health care and it should be free at the point of service and we should have a national system. They've convinced themselves that that's a political loser to say those things. None of the data ever showed that that was a loser. There was like a brief period where it was, but ever since Bernie in 2015 started going out there and talking about this relentlessly, the numbers went up and up and up and up and up and up and up, and it's been really high for a long time now. So Bernie Sanders is so important because he gets the Democratic establishment to admit what they really are, which is not in favor of Medicare for all, not in favor of free college, not in favor of ending the wars, not in favor of a Green New Deal. So that's really important because it used to be the case that these corporatists would have to be like, I am totally in favor of healthcare for everybody. And then when push came to shove, they were like, ha ha, just kidding, no we're not. But now he's gotten them to the point where they're like, I got to disagree with him, right? Because he might actually make these changes and stand up against the special interests. So, yeah, no, Medicare for all is bad? Well, look at how that argument worked out for you. So from now on, if the Democratic establishment has any intelligence at all, they will adjust moving forward, definitely by the next election, and they'll have all their candidates will pretend to support Medicare for all. Some people were a little more clever, by the way. Some Democratic establishment people were a little more clever. And Kamala early on was bragging about, I was the first one to sign on to his Medicare for all bill in the Senate. Oh, interesting. So what happened? Briefly early on, Kamala Harris came out of the gate strong, and everybody was saying, oh my God, she's doing well in the polls. She could be a real force to be reckoned with. Elizabeth Warren used to go out there and play the Me Too game with Bernie. Me too, I'm just like him. Me too. I'm like him, except I'm younger and I'm female. Vote for me. She was number one in the polls for a brief period when she was doing that. And then what happened? Thank God the Democratic establishment class, the staffers, got to Kamala Harris, got to Elizabeth Warren, and they changed their talking points. And Elizabeth Warren backed off of Medicare for all, leaned into, I'm a woman, everybody. I'm a woman, I'd be the first woman president, I'm a woman. And everybody went, I'm gonna go back to the Medicare for all thing. And so she tanked in the polls. Kamala Harris, same thing. When she decided, Medicare for all is no longer my main issue, now I will say every debate 1,000 times in an awkward way that Donald Trump should be banned from Twitter. Everybody was like, what? And she tanked in the polls. So, guys, we're winning the messaging battle. We're winning the policy battle, and that is obvious. So we'll see whether or not the Democratic establishment adjusts moving forward, and they start lying to us about supporting Medicare for all. If they're intelligent, they'll do that. If not, they'll still try to plow forward like Klobuchar, plow forward like Buttigieg. But hey, you know what? You got to give them props. At least, like, Klobuchar's at least honest. Klobuchar's like, yeah, no, I don't support that. And she never pretended to. Buttigieg is a little bit of a different story. He did used to pretend to support Medicare for all. Then he changed to, I'm in the middle. I'm Medicare for all who want it. So it's a little bit of a different story for him. But for Klobuchar, she's just like, yeah, I don't support it. That's my position. Okay, well, at least you're honest, but you're wrong. So now you know. So I never want to hear again this Medicare for all. I had a giant debate with James Carville at Politicon. I don't know how many of you guys remember it, where he was taking the position that Medicare for all is like stupid and is not a political winner. And I'm like, bro, this isn't debatable. Look at the polls. The polls are 100% on my side. It is a political winner. That's not Kyle speaking. That's not any of my other left-wing, commentary buddies speaking. That's what the numbers show. Politics is not that complicated. I love how a loudmouth YouTuber, I'm lecturing one of the people who got Bill Clinton elected. And I'm like, no, bro, you're stuck in 1992. That's not how this works anymore. Listen, the polls show people want Medicare for all. If you want to win elections, you go to where the polls are. You go to where the people are. You say, I will be a champion for the things that you want. And by the way, that does mean that come the general election, and I'll do a different segment on this at a certain point, but Bernie does have to do, in many ways, he's not going to pivot at all, and he's going to stay exactly on message, and that's the right thing to do. There are a tiny number of issues where he's going to have to not pivot, but he's going to have to change his rhetoric so that it appeals to a broader audience in the general election. Again, I'll do a separate segment on that, and I'll go into detail about it. But bottom line is, guys, politics is not rocket science, man. It's just not. And when you go to where the people are, yeah, you're going to win. And beyond that, there are also some issues where the argument is so strong that even if the polls aren't with you right now, you can make the polls be with you with relatively little work. And one of those ideas that was easy to sell all along was, hey, I don't think you should go bankrupt for getting health care. Just a thought. I think maybe healthcare should be free at the point of service for you, and it should be funded by tax dollars, and you should get effectively a tax cut because you'll pay less for your healthcare under a Medicare for all system. So Medicare for all is a winner. It's a political winner. That's the end of the conversation. I don't want to hear a single centrist ever again say that the opposite is true.